Hey everybody, Shabbat Shalom. I don't know. I'm still learning about calendar stuff, and so I'm just hollowing out this day because it's the easiest thing I do according to my understanding and according to my situation, because learning rules and regulations personally makes my situation and my persecution a little bit more difficult adjusting to that stuff. So it's something, I don't know. Anyway, so Shabbat Shalom for those celebrating the Sabbath. I will say I was watching Code Searcher's video tonight, and remember how yesterday, the day before, I felt like the Lord instructed me to translate that psalm. He said, do it before the Sabbath. And when I woke up, I really felt like, all right, it's Friday, like the Sabbath is coming up, just in my head. I don't look at the calendar. I don't need to look at a calendar because this place is completely desolate with gang stalkers. Life doesn't go on here. But I did feel like he highlighted, like, the Sabbath is, like, yes, the Sabbath is not, I feel him now. I feel joy. I'm laughing. I feel him now. Like, the Sabbath is not Friday to Saturday night, as our normal calendar is. I'm not saying that you're wrong if anyone's doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm learning. I don't know. I'm learning. So it was a day or 2 days ago, the real Sabbath, according to the calendars. I don't know. I know our calendars are all messed up, and I know who Yah is going to correct them. I don't know. So, okay, anyway, the reason why I'm making this video, I have to confess my sins to my brethren. I feel like I did break the Sabbath because I was reading the psalm that was translated today, and I found some, after the stuff sits on the stove and you meditate it, you get more used to the context, it becomes a little bit more clear. So I made a little bit more corrections, and I want to talk about that. And to me, in my heart, I felt like I was breaking the Sabbath, but I was afraid I was going to forget what I wanted to do if I waited. So I just made little quick adjustments. So I don't know. That's, I'm confessing. It really matters what we do in our heart, but in my heart, I really felt like I was breaking the Sabbath, and, maybe I can make excuses about it, like, well, we're still sharing the word with our brethren who could be reading it online, but those are just excuses. So, I don't know. So let me go over, I hope Yah forgives me. Okay. I hope Yah forgives me, and I'm just going to go over the little things that I corrected here, okay? The link will be in the description box below, okay? So you can see where we're at. This was something I changed. Originally it said, I will prostrate myself and implore your mercy. Beseech is a more biblically accurate term, so I used the word beseech. Very simple. And here we go. The mess of verses 5, 6, and 7. Now this is in the, you could look at the resources at the bottom of this page. You could try to decipher this yourself. Good luck. It's a puzzle. But I switched this around because I think we understand the context of what's going on here. This is the sin nature from which we are born under. Alright? So I switched these two verses around because contextually it makes more sense. And honestly, I think turning aside from the counsel of your truth may not 100% be originally translated accurately. But I think from context clues we get the idea of what we're talking about here. So, for I have wallowed in uncleanness from the secret of nakedness in from which I was created, turning aside from the counsel of your truth. Originally, these two verses were swapped. So I swapped these around because contextually it makes more sense. And what's interesting about this verse is that it's telling us this is referring to the sin nature from which we are born in, and it's telling us that it's a secret, and that it is. We're not born knowing that we were born sinners in need of a Savior. This is a mystery to us. So it's kind of revealing that truth, right? and turning aside from the counsel of your truth, because we all, this is why in the Hebrew calendar and in biblical truth, the days start at sundown, because we are all called to come out of darkness. Okay? So we are all born as sheep to go astray. Okay? So here we go. And I think verse 6 here is really talking about laboring and wrestling, coming out of our sin nature, making our eye be single. And of course, if you look at the original resources, you could check this stuff out. Good luck. I did the best I could. I think contextually this is fair, legitimate, and the best we could do considering from what we have. So with that said, I made one more little adjustment. Originally, it was an obstacle from the words of your will, and once we understand what we're talking about here, an obstacle to the word of your will. And David, the author of this psalm, is talking about so he doesn't sin against Yah, so he becomes an obstacle of the written prophecies about him. And David writes in his psalms, in previous psalms, I can't quote them right now, that he did acknowledge that there were prophecies about him. And I mean, we really see something I wanted to share is what's amazing about this psalm. And knowing that David wrote this, I don't think anybody ever talks about King David fulfilling Psalm 53. But you know what? He had to. He did. Because he was a shadow of the Messiah. And we read about in his Psalms, he absolutely was a suffering servant. We don't read much about it in Kings and Samuel and stuff like that, but we read about it in his writings that he wrote in his Psalms. So he absolutely did. It would be an interesting study to go down Psalm 53 and see if King David actually was a fulfillment of Isaiah 53, right? I believe he was. He had to be. So that's interesting. And there was something I wanted to share. If you give me a minute, let me just find the let me just find the verse. Here we are. Verse 11 here, okay, is actually a peculiar fulfillment of Isaiah 53. Right? And through the insight of your truth, you do hedge in him with firm discernment, that he may not sin against you. Now look, there's a lot to talk about here. But in these lost Psalms of David, in the Thanksgiving hymns scroll of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that most of those are Psalms of David. Okay? They are. And he talks about Yah giving him a spirit of discernment. And we know that because look at the prophetic implications just in our canonical Psalms. We're still marveling and studying them over now. So of course he actually absolutely had an insight of truth and a hedge in him of firm discernment. And that was meant, So considering this, clearly King David is being portrayed as a suffering servant here. So let's go to Isaiah 53. And it's very interesting in verse 11 of Isaiah 53. He shall see the travail of his soul and be satisfied. King David likely could have fulfilled that. By his knowledge shall his righteous servant justify many. King David absolutely fulfilled that because of his messianic prophecies within his psalm. Are King David's psalms justifying us today? Absolutely. Absolutely. For he shall bear their iniquities. So it's really interesting how we see these confirmations. And it's really interesting, I don't think anyone has ever considered King David fulfilling Psalm 53, but if he was a shadow of the Messiah, in his shade, he had to fulfill Isaiah 53, He had to fulfill Isaiah 53, in at least a type or a shadow. So it's something to consider, and there's something else I want to say. I do believe there is conspiracy stuff going on. These hymns of thanksgiving in the Dead Sea Scrolls, now, right off the bat, guys, look, I'm not condemning people, but we have a tendency to complain or we have a tendency to criticize before we even discern. And right off the bat, the first 2 Psalms that were done here, people complain and come against this. This is a fad. This is this and that, and no one even bothers to read the whole text. No one's reading the entire scroll. I'm just doing this in chronological order. It has to be done. Okay, where are we? Here we are. All right, these have to be done, and it becomes more obvious as we go along in the scroll because it's a fragmented scroll. The more, it's more preserved in the middle and it's fragmented towards the end. And the end of this scroll is all fragments, and reading them, they are lost Psalms of David. What I'm trying to get to is when we study the Hymns of Thanksgiving scroll as a whole, there's amazing insight and wisdom in that scroll. And it's like there is biblical doctrine. There is deep biblical doctrine that is not so obvious. And it's, I don't know if this is Yah's sovereign hand, or if whenever the Roman Empire, whoever it was, the Constantine that made our canons and decided to make the Psalms that we have in our Bibles, did they purposely have extra Psalms that were purposely omitted because of doctrine, because of obvious, messianic connotations of Jesus? Or maybe not, because then they would have omitted Psalm 2, they would have, I don't know. Or is this just Yah's sovereign hand over it all, and he's just waiting for this stuff to be revealed in its due time, right, in the last days? I don't know. But when you study the Hymns of Thanksgiving scroll in the Dead Sea Scrolls, guys, anybody could just download the PDF online, start reading it. Like, click on like page 300. You'll find it's around there somewhere. Okay. Start reading these so-called hymns, right? Just mere hymns. No, they're lost Psalms of David. Most of them are. Not all of them. Most of them are. And the stuff in here, the context in these Psalms is just incredible. The wisdom and the biblical doctrine is just incredible. And it really makes you wonder, did they have these? Were these not in our Bibles purposely? And this is, through the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is Yah's way of revealing them to the body? I don't know. I don't know. But it's just something to consider. I don't know. But as we go, I am going to be doing these Psalms. I'll probably put the Psalms of Solomon project on hold because I really feel like Yah is moving when I'm doing these. And I think I know why, because the Hymns of Thanksgiving scroll, what's in that is relevant to the times we're living in right now. I mean, as I was first reading them, it was like a lot of them, I was doing my readings on my YouTube channel, reading them for the first time really, and it's as if they were coming to pass that very day in my personal life. And Yah works that way in our lives. It's just really amazing. It's something spiritual and supernatural that the carnal mind is just, is probably going to be a naysayer, but you need to have spiritual discernment here. So, I don't know. Alright guys, so Shabbat Shalom. I hope everyone's well. Enjoy your night. I'll probably be on tomorrow and hopefully do a reading and share the word and do a Bible study. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your time and attention. Yah bless you all. Good night.